Dr. Peter Landless is the director for the health ministries at the GC. Recently, Dr. Landless stood up at the annual council right here and publicly condemned the church, and you are going to hear him say it. Before we listen to the clip, however, remember 4 facts. Fact number 1, this man is a physician, and he is the #1 leader of the entire worldwide church for health ministries. Fact number 2, the Adventist Church officially supports and has supported for over 48 years the deliberate murder of children via abortion. Number 3, it is a documented fact that tens of thousands of children have been violently killed in our own hospitals. And fact number 4, there is no evidence anywhere of Dr. Landless speaking so much as even one word against this violence. An estimated 41 to 56 million children are dismembered and murdered every year. Our church is not only silent, but supports it with no biblical evidence whatsoever. Dr. Landless knows all of this, and yet there is not one word from him. Let's listen.
Thank you, Brother Chair. I am grateful for the opportunity of open and free conversation. That is church at its best. As a physician, I ask the question, what is the cause when I'm faced with a problem? This is a difficult moment in our church. We indeed have policies in place, and that's the landscape of this discussion. I come from South Africa. I'm a white man from South Africa. I grew up under apartheid. My church winked at corrupt systems and collaborated, putting in parallel inequitous and iniquitous salary scales, pension benefits, whereas our church never said a word. The Episcopalians and the Catholics pushed back. That's the problem. Change came when people were willing to speak and act their conscience regardless of the consequences. This is the diagnosis. Women's ordination is a problem which is here to stay. To date, despite the change in the system in South Africa, our church has never apologized for not opposing apartheid. I have done, I do.
He stands there and condemns his own church for not only, quote, winking at corrupt systems, but actually collaborating with them by implementing evil practices. He condemns our church for its silence and praises the Episcopalians and Catholics, and then, I can't believe he said this, he stands there and says, our church has never apologized for not opposing apartheid. I have. I do. This man is the #1 director of health ministries for the entire world church, who has full knowledge and awareness of the horror of abortion. He knows our church supports child murder. He knows what our institutions have done, and yet he doesn't say even one word. He boasts of being a voice against apartheid and condemns his own church, but upon this man rests the greatest obligation and solemn duty to inform our church about this terrible evil of abortion, and not a single word. I immediately emailed him and said, Dr. Landless, how can you in good conscience stand up and condemn the church for silence during apartheid when your church supports the deliberate murder of unborn children? How can you boast of speaking against apartheid when there is not one word of you anywhere speaking against the horror of killing children, which we both support and have practiced in our own institutions? How can you condemn leadership for being silent when you, as the director of health ministries, have the solemn duty and obligation to lead our church away from this appalling and horrific violation of the 6th commandment, and yet there is not one word from you? How dare you condemn the church when you are silent about child murder? Let's listen to Dr. Landless tell us what should characterize the health ministry.
Interventions which don't do harm. We should never do harm.
We should never do harm. Our church supports decapitating and dismembering children while they are still alive. Our church supports raw, bloody, awful, cruel violence towards children. Our church even has no restriction on late-term abortion. We teach that it's okay for a baby to be partially born and then jam scissors into the base of the skull, insert a vacuum, suck out the brains, and collapse the skull. The Adventist Church supports this, and he has the audacity to lecture everyone about not doing harm. And what makes this terribly sad is that this man could be using his position authority, and influence to do such tremendous good in the world. Dr. Landless is in a wonderful position. He could single-handedly, through his influence alone, be responsible for saving untold number of unborn children. This man could be leading our church to bring glory to God and by honoring the sixth commandment, and he won't even say one word. And when he does get a chance to stand up and speak, he uses this opportunity to condemn the church. This is very sad and disappointing. And an important point: this video is not about the man, Peter Landless. This video is important because of the position. We Adventists need to be giving to the world a distinct and clear witness. We need men in these positions of leadership who will speak the truth. The world needs to see leaders in our church speak the truth and who will unflinchingly condemn this abhorrent practice of child murder. The position as Director of Health Ministries for the worldwide church has a very serious responsibility, and it is both irresponsible and unacceptable for someone of this rank and position to be using the microphone to blast our own church when he himself says nothing about our own support for child murder. My friends, this is of course very sad and very disappointing, and I hope you are asking the question, what can you do about it? What can we do about this problem? There are some things we can do, but first things first, in the next video, I will outline some simple actions that you can do immediately to help our church address this issue. So stay tuned. Please watch the next video to learn more.
Change came when people were willing to speak and act their conscience, regardless of the consequences.
It's so important for us to stand up and speak out against this violence.